Darkness is not empty. For me, it is full of sounds, feelings, and secrets that people with perfect eyes always miss. My name is Maya. I am a blind singer. Today, my new song reached #1 in the world. I was sitting in my quiet living room, smiling happily. My manager, Vance, walked into the room. He opened a bottle of expensive champagne. The glass made a sharp, happy sound. "You did it, Maya," Vance said. His voice sounded smooth and friendly. "We're going to make millions of dollars. You just need to sign this new tour contract." I reached my hand out to take the pen. Beside me sat my best friend, Bruno. He was a beautiful golden retriever guide dog. He was my second pair of eyes. Suddenly, Bruno stood up. He pushed his wet nose hard against my hand. He knocked the pen away. "Bruno, stop it," Vance said. His voice was suddenly very tight. Bruno did not stop. He pushed his heavy head under my arm. I touched Bruno's fur. He was not angry or playing. His muscles were completely tense. I reached out and touched the paper contract on the table. The thick paper was slightly wet. It was covered in heavy, cold sweat from Vance's hands. Why was my manager sweating so much in a cool, air-conditioned room? Vance was incredibly nervous. He forced the pen back into my hand. "Just sign it quickly, Maya. The press is waiting." I trusted Vance with my life. He helped me when I was a poor, unknown singer. I smiled and quickly signed my name on the dotted line. I did not know I was signing a fake document. I was giving away all my money, my music, and my future. Vance sighed loudly. It was a heavy sigh of deep relief. He quickly pulled the paper away and packed it into his leather bag. He zipped the bag with a fast, aggressive motion. He was acting very strange today. He accidentally kicked his heavy bag across the wooden floor. Instantly, Bruno jumped forward. My gentle, quiet guide dog let out a low, dangerous growl. I was completely shocked. Bruno never growled at anyone. I heard the sharp sound of his nails scratching heavily against Vance's leather bag. He was digging at the leather like a wild, crazy animal. "Get your stupid dog away from my bag," Vance shouted in sudden, wild panic. He grabbed his bag and ran out of my apartment, slamming the door. I sat alone in the dark room. Bruno walked back to me and put his head on my knee, breathing very fast. I gently touched his soft ears. What was inside that bag? Bruno did not hate Vance. He was reacting to something invisible. My dog was trying to warn me about a terrible danger. But I could not see the trap until it was much too late. The next morning, I tried to buy coffee. My bank card was declined. I called my bank in total confusion. The lady on the phone told me my accounts were completely empty. Everything was legally transferred to a new company. The new company was owned entirely by Vance. I felt a cold terror in my chest. I called Vance and demanded he come to my house immediately. When he arrived, he did not sound friendly anymore. He sounded like a cruel, greedy monster. "You signed the transfer papers, Maya," he laughed coldly. "I own you completely now. You tricked a blind woman." I screamed, tears falling from my useless eyes. "I will call the police. I will tell the whole world what you did." Vance just laughed louder. He walked slowly around my living room. "You have no money for lawyers. You are nothing without me." I reached for my phone, but Vance grabbed my wrist tightly. He squeezed my arm until it hurt. Bruno barked loudly, warning Vance to let me go. My brave dog stood between us, showing his teeth. He was protecting his disabled owner. Vance let go of my arm suddenly. "You want to fight me, Maya?" Vance whispered. His voice was filled with pure evil. I heard the sharp click of a metal paper cutter opening. I thought he was going to attack me, but he did not touch me. Instead, he quickly sliced his own left arm. Vance screamed at the top of his lungs. He knocked over my glass table, breaking it into 100 pieces. "Help! The dog is crazy. He is biting me," Vance shouted wildly. I stood frozen in the middle of the room. Bruno was sitting quietly right next to my legs. Vance was putting on a terrible, fake performance. He pulled out his phone and called the emergency police number. He cried and yelled that a dangerous dog was attacking him. He said he was bleeding everywhere. He was creating a perfect, bloody crime scene to destroy my only friend. 10 minutes later, the police rushed into my house. They saw Vance bleeding heavily on the floor. They did not listen to my desperate tears. They did not believe a blind woman. They grabbed Bruno roughly with a thick, heavy pole. My sweet dog cried out in fear. "He is innocent. He didn't bite anyone," I begged, crawling on the broken glass. But the officers pulled Bruno away. The heavy door slammed shut. Vance walked past me. "Enjoy the darkness, Maya," he whispered cruelly. He had stolen my money, my music, and now my precious eyes. I sat on the floor of my empty house for 2 days. I did not eat or sleep. The Animal Control Center called me. They gave me the worst news of my life. Because Bruno was a large dog and attacked a man, he was labeled highly dangerous. The harsh law said he must be put to sleep. They scheduled his death for this weekend. I was completely crushed. I felt like I was drowning in a black ocean. But then my deep, quiet memory started to wake up. I remembered Bruno's special history before I adopted him. Bruno was not a normal guide dog. He was originally trained at the Police K-9 Academy. He was dropped from the police program because he was too gentle. He refused to bite running criminals. But he had scored a perfect 100% on his chemical scent detection test. He was a master at finding hidden drugs. I crawled on the floor and found a piece of cloth. It was the handkerchief Vance dropped during our fight. I held it close to my face and took a deep breath. Blind people have an incredibly strong sense of smell. I expected to smell Vance's expensive cologne. But beneath the sweet perfume, there was something sharp and chemical. It smelled like strong industrial cleaning liquid and bitter medicine. It burned the inside of my nose. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in my dark, confused mind. Bruno had not scratched Vance's leather bag because he was angry. Bruno was doing a professional, active alert. It is a highly specific scratching behavior police dogs use to warn their officers. Bruno smelled the strong, bitter illegal chemicals hidden deep inside my manager's heavy leather bag. Vance was not just a greedy music manager. He was hiding illegal, dangerous drugs. He was a criminal smuggler. He set up the fake dog attack to remove Bruno from my house. He knew my smart K-9 dog would eventually expose his dirty, hidden secrets to the police. I wiped my tears away. The sadness vanished, replaced by a burning, cold anger. My dog was sitting on death row because he tried to protect me. I could not sit here and cry while my best friend was waiting to die. I needed to fight back. But I was just a blind woman trapped in a quiet house. I needed Bruno to find the real evidence. I needed him to lead me to Vance's secret drugs. I had to break my dog out of a secure city prison, and I had to do it completely blind. I could not go to the animal shelter to save him. The police ordered me to stay away from the dangerous dog. Vance felt very confident. He thought he had completely destroyed my spirit. He called me the next morning with a new, cruel plan to humiliate me in front of everyone. "You have a live radio interview tonight, Maya," Vance ordered smoothly. "You will smile and tell the world you are taking a long vacation. If you cause any trouble, I will make sure you never sing again." He wanted me to look happy while he stole my life. I agreed quietly. But Vance did not know that I had a secret plan. I knew the night guards at the animal shelter very well. They always listened to the local music radio station during their long, boring night shifts. They would definitely be listening to my live interview. I dressed up and took a taxi to the radio station. Vance sat right next to me in the studio. He was watching my every move. The radio host asked me about my new hit song and my sudden success. I smiled and answered politely, just like Vance wanted. I held my mobile phone secretly under the table. My fingers moved quickly over the flat screen. Because I am blind, I use technology very differently. I had downloaded a special frequency generator application. It produces sounds that are completely invisible to the human ear. While the host was playing my new song on the radio, I pressed a button on my phone. The phone emitted a very powerful, high-frequency ultrasonic pitch. Humans could not hear it, but the radio microphone picked up the signal perfectly. The silent noise traveled across the city airwaves. This was not just a random noise. I matched the exact frequency of a police dog whistle. In the K9 Academy, this specific rhythm of sharp sounds meant one thing. It was the emergency breakout command. It told the dog to escape and find its handler immediately. Vance sat next to me, drinking water and checking his gold watch. He had no idea that I was shouting a powerful command right next to him. I was calling my soldier to war. I just had to hope that Bruno was listening to the radio in his cold cage. The radio interview ended smoothly. Vance smiled, proud of his total control. He walked me to a waiting car. He thought the game was completely over. But in the dark silence of the city, my invisible call was already working its magic. The good boy was coming home. Across the city, the animal shelter was quiet and dark. The security guard was sitting at his desk, drinking coffee. His small radio was playing my live interview softly. Deep inside the isolation room, Bruno was lying on the cold concrete floor. He was sad and lonely. Suddenly, Bruno's ears stood straight up. He heard the invisible, high-pitched whistle coming from the tiny radio speaker. His K9 police training woke up instantly. He recognized his master's emergency command. Bruno stood up quickly. He knew he had to escape, but he was locked behind a heavy metal gate. Bruno did not bark or throw his body against the door. He was a very smart, trained dog. He knew he could not break the metal. Instead, he lay down near the front of the cage. He began to shake violently. He closed his eyes and foamed at the mouth. He was faking a severe medical seizure. The guard heard the strange noises and ran to the cage. He saw the sick dog and panicked. The guard quickly unlocked the heavy gate to help the dying animal. As soon as the door opened, the magic trick was revealed. Bruno instantly stopped shaking. He jumped up with incredible speed and ran past the shocked guard. He did not bite or attack the man. He just slipped out into the main hallway like a golden ghost. The guard yelled and pushed the loud emergency alarm button. Red lights flashed everywhere. The front door was blocked by other security guards holding heavy sticks. A normal dog would panic and try to fight them. But Bruno was a guide dog. He spent his whole life finding safe, alternative paths for his blind owner. He used his paw logic. He ignored the front door completely. He looked down and saw a low, metal air ventilation cover on the wall. Bruno used his strong paws to pull the loose metal cover away. He squeezed his body into the narrow, dark air tunnel, completely avoiding the angry guards. He crawled quickly through the dusty tunnel until he smelled fresh air. He pushed a second vent cover open and dropped softly onto the wet grass outside. He was free. The city was huge, loud, and full of strange, distracting smells. But Bruno had only one mission tonight. He lifted his wet nose to the night wind. He was searching for my unique scent. He had to find me before the police caught him. He disappeared into the dark, busy streets, moving like a silent shadow. The faithful K9 was finally on the hunt. I sat nervously in my dark apartment. I held my phone tightly, listening to the voice-reading software. When Vance took Bruno away, he forgot one very important detail. Bruno's collar had a tiny, hidden GPS tracking chip. I used my screen reader to track his location. I heard the mechanical voice read the changing street names. Main Street, Elm Street. Bruno was moving very fast. I smiled, knowing his escape plan had worked perfectly. I expected the GPS to show him running directly to my apartment. But the voice read a completely different direction. Bruno was not coming home. He was running toward the industrial side of the city. I was confused. Then, the computer voice announced his final location. He had stopped moving. He was waiting at the old brick building that held my private music recording studio. Why did Bruno go there? I sat perfectly still in the dark. My mind raced through the strange events. Vance's heavy leather bag, the smell of harsh chemicals, the sudden, fake dog attack. The truth finally hit me like a violent punch to the stomach. It was brilliant and terrifying. Vance was not hiding the drugs in his own house. He was hiding them in my music studio. He was using my giant grand pianos, my heavy wooden speakers, and my large boxes to store massive amounts of illegal drugs. No one ever searched a famous singer's private equipment. He was using my national music tours to transport the drugs across borders safely. My blindness made me the perfect, unknowing cover for his massive criminal empire. He was shipping poison in the same boxes that carried my beautiful music. The realization made me feel incredibly sick and angry. Bruno did not go to my apartment because he smelled the danger. His police training took him straight to the source of the chemical drugs. He was waiting for me at the crime scene. I stood up and grabbed my white walking cane. I had to meet him there immediately. I quietly left my apartment and called a taxi. I told the driver to drop me a block away from the studio. The night air was freezing. I tapped my cane on the concrete, moving carefully toward the building. I was walking into the dangerous heart of the monster's den. I knew Vance might be there, cleaning up his dirty secrets. I was just a blind woman, and he was a ruthless criminal. But I was not afraid. I had the power of the dark on my side, and my loyal protector was waiting for me. I reached the back door of the recording studio. The heavy metal door was slightly open. I stepped inside silently. The air smelled dusty and cold. I stood very still and focused my hearing. Blindness takes away the light, but it makes every single sound 10 times louder. I heard heavy footsteps walking across the wooden floor. I heard the sound of plastic tape tearing and large boxes being pushed. Vance was there. He had brought his dangerous men. They were rushing to move the illegal drugs out of the studio before the police started asking questions. "Hurry up and load the piano boxes," Vance yelled nervously. "If the police investigate that stupid dog, they might search this place. Move everything to the trucks tonight." I hid behind a large soundboard, barely breathing. I needed to find a way to stop them and call the police. Suddenly, I accidentally kicked an empty glass bottle on the floor. It rolled loudly across the quiet room. The rushing footsteps stopped instantly. "Who is there?" Vance shouted. He pulled a heavy metal flashlight from his belt. I heard him walking slowly toward my hiding spot. "Maya?" Vance asked. He laughed a cruel, ugly laugh. "You stupid, blind girl. How did you find this place? You just walked into your own grave." He ordered his men to grab me. I squeezed the handle of my white cane tightly, preparing for a terrible, painful fight. Before the men could touch me, a low, terrifying growl echoed from the dark corner of the room. A massive, golden blur shot out of the shadows. Bruno leaped through the air with incredible power. He did not bite Vance. Instead, he slammed his heavy body into Vance's chest. Vance fell backward onto the hard floor, dropping his flashlight. Bruno quickly grabbed my white cane in his mouth. He pushed the familiar handle directly into my shaking hand. I felt his warm, strong body pressing against my leg. My brave guide dog had successfully found his owner. "Kill the dog and grab the girl," Vance screamed in panic. His heavy men pulled out metal pipes and started running toward us. The situation was incredibly dangerous. They had weapons and they could see. I had only a cane and a dog. But we had a secret advantage. We were standing in a professional recording studio. I knew every single wire, switch, and power box in this building perfectly. I reached out and pulled the main electrical switch on the wall. The hunter and the prey were about to officially switch places in the absolute dark. I pulled the heavy electrical switch down completely. A loud click echoed in the room. Every single light in the building turned off instantly. The studio was plunged into total, absolute blackness. Vance and his violent men gasped in sudden fear. They were completely blind now, but I was finally home. "Turn on your phone lights," Vance shouted in a panic. But before they could reach into their pockets, Bruno moved. He was a silent, powerful ghost. Following my soft, whispered commands, Bruno ran quietly behind the men. He pushed a tall, heavy stack of speaker boxes forward. The heavy speakers crashed down perfectly onto 2 of the men. They screamed and fell to the floor, trapped under the wooden boxes. "Where are they?" Vance yelled, waving his metal pipe blindly in the air. He was completely lost and terrified in my dark world. I did not need light to see. I listened to their heavy, panicked breathing. I heard the sound of their shoes scraping nervously on the wooden floor. I knew exactly where Vance was standing. I quietly picked up a heavy, metal microphone stand from the corner of the room. I threw the heavy metal stand with perfect accuracy toward the sound of Vance's voice. The metal hit his legs hard. Vance tripped and crashed face first into a drum set with a massive, loud noise. He groaned in pain, unable to stand up in the confusing darkness. The last remaining thug tried to run toward the exit door. Bruno intercepted him silently. My dog quickly wrapped his strong front legs around the man's ankles, tripping him smoothly. The man fell and hit his head against the soft, padded wall. He went completely unconscious. In less than 3 minutes, Vance and his dangerous crew were entirely defeated. They were beaten by a blind woman and a gentle guide dog. I stood proudly in the darkness, breathing calmly. I pulled my mobile phone from my pocket and pressed the secret emergency button. I had set up this button before I entered the studio. It instantly sent an urgent SOS message and my exact GPS location to the city's special police team. Now, all I had to do was wait for the lights to come back on. The trap was perfectly sprung. I knelt down and hugged Bruno tightly. He licked my face, completely relaxed and happy. We sat together in the absolute dark, listening to the criminals groaning on the floor. The distant, loud sound of police sirens began to echo through the cold, night air. We had won. The loud police sirens grew closer. Heavy boots kicked open the studio's front doors. Bright flashlight beams cut through the dark room. A police officer finally found the main power switch and turned the lights back on. The SWAT team aimed their guns at the confused people on the floor. Vance immediately started his fake performance again. He pointed a shaking finger at me. "Arrest her," he cried desperately. "This blind woman is completely crazy. She attacked us in the dark, and her dangerous dog tried to kill me. Please, you have to lock her in prison immediately." The police officers looked confused. They saw the beaten men and my fierce dog. A few officers slowly walked toward me with handcuffs ready. Vance smiled a bloody, cruel smile. He thought he had hidden the drugs well enough. He thought his lies would win again. But Bruno stepped forward calmly. He did not bark or act aggressive toward the police. He walked past Vance and went straight to the back of the studio. He stopped in front of a thick, padded soundproof wall. He sat down very quietly and stared at the soft wall. The room went silent. Bruno lifted his front paw and gently scratched the padded wall exactly 3 times. Then, he let out one loud, sharp bark. The SWAT team captain gasped in shock. He instantly recognized the behavior. It was the perfect, professional scent alert of a police K9. "Tear that wall down right now," the captain ordered his heavily armed men. Vance's face turned completely white. He tried to run, but 2 strong officers threw him to the floor. The SWAT team used axes to rip the soft soundproofing foam away from the heavy wooden wall. Hidden behind the fake wall was a massive, secret storage space. Hundreds of tightly wrapped plastic bags fell out onto the studio floor. It was a massive mountain of illegal, dangerous drugs. The evidence was absolutely undeniable. Vance's giant criminal empire was completely exposed to the bright light. The captain walked over to me and gently touched my shoulder. "You and your dog are completely safe now, ma'am," he said respectfully. He looked at Bruno with deep admiration. "That is the finest police dog I have ever seen." I smiled proudly and petted Bruno's soft golden head. Vance was crying loudly as the police dragged him away in tight metal handcuffs. He had tried to use my blindness to hide his dark crimes. But he forgot that true vision does not come from the eyes. It comes from the heart, the mind, and an honest dog. As they pushed Vance toward the police car, he screamed at me one last time. "I still own your music, Maya," he yelled angrily. "I will use your millions of dollars to pay for my lawyers. You will still be my slave even when I am in jail." A police lawyer standing nearby laughed and shook his head. He looked at Vance with total disgust. "You are completely wrong," the lawyer explained calmly. "Under federal drug laws, all your assets, bank accounts, and business contracts are immediately seized by the government. Your fake contracts are permanently void." Vance stopped screaming. The terrible truth finally hit him. He had absolutely nothing left. He had lost his money, his freedom, and his power. The fake contract he forced me to sign was completely worthless. I owned my name and my beautiful music again. The nightmare was truly over. Several happy, peaceful months passed. My story was on every news channel in the country. People loved the brave blind singer and her hero dog. My hit song climbed even higher on the charts. But I did not care about the money or the fame anymore. I cared about helping others. I stood on a massive, bright stage holding a microphone. Thousands of fans cheered loudly in the crowded arena. I was not alone on the stage. Standing proudly right beside me was Bruno. He was wearing a shiny, heavy gold medal of honor given to him by the city police department. I smiled and held up my hand to quiet the excited crowd. "Tonight is very special," I spoke into the microphone. "I am officially donating 50% of all my song profits to build a new, advanced training center for guide dogs and rescue animals." The crowd clapped wildly. "These amazing animals do more than just guide us across the street," I continued, feeling Bruno lean warmly against my leg. "They protect our lives. They see the truth when humans are completely blind to the danger. They deserve our love, our respect, and our absolute trust." I began to sing my famous hit song. The music filled the giant arena with beautiful, powerful sound. I could not see the bright lights or the smiling faces in the crowd. But I did not need eyes to feel the incredible magic and love in that room. Sometimes, the darkest nights bring the brightest mornings. Vance tried to lock me in a silent, hopeless prison. But my loyal dog and I used the darkness to find our freedom. The music played on, and for the first time in my life, I saw everything perfectly clearly.